about a third of our life on our mattresses, and it's so vital we have the right one, and we don't break the bank to do that. I first bought a mattress from the big store the brothers used to own, and a power base that moved the head and feet, and then I met John, and I checked out his showroom at 50 Main Street in Ashland and online at boxdropmiddlesex.com, and ended up with a better mattress, a power base that also heats and massages, all for less than half of what I was going to spend at the other place. Box Drop is a dump mattress store, and John specializes in clearance and closeouts, and he buys directly from the manufacturer with a low overhead and just family employees passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9303. That's 508-579-9303. And you can find John on Facebook at Boxdrop Middlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com.
The following is a paid program. The opinions are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of the station or its management.
You are about to undertake a 2-hour experience of eye-opening, mind-expanding, revealing common sense discussion for the common sense citizen. Strap yourself in, put your trays in the upright position, remove dentures and loose jewelry, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and come along for the ride. It is time for the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN 830, and our affiliates, and streaming on the TuneIn app. It's Joe time, baby.
All right, folks, good morning and welcome to the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and we are online at tjmshow.com and on all of our social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show. That's M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. We're, of course, on AM 830 WCRN, AM 730 WACE in the western part of the state. We're also live streaming on the TuneIn app. So just punch WCRN into the app. And if you don't have it saved as a favorite, which you should do, it's real easy to do. We're live streaming on a couple platforms, my Facebook page, Twitter account, LinkedIn page, YouTube channel, and even Twitch TV. Joe Mangi Show, the Joe Mangiacotti channel. Easy to find. You can join the conversation at any time. 508 717 508-8717 is for two-way talk and conversation. Our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-388, or email text Joe on the radio at gmail.com. It appears on the same screen in real time. Mike Wade will be in at 7 o'clock for Conservatively Speaking. Take us to 9 o'clock. I think he's going to have to duck out a little early, so I'll chill out with him and hang out with him till Peter Blute comes in at 9 and 9 to noon there. So you got a good solid block this morning of talk, two-way talk. Microphones available to you as well. All right. So what's going on? I didn't get to touch on yesterday that creepy porn lawyer, Michael Avenatti, has been convicted. And this is the second one, right? He got the conviction, I think, with was it with Nike? He tried to shake down a $1 billion corporation, right? This guy, you could see the desperation in this guy. I mean, he was just trying to write it. And what's funny about this is the talking heads in the alphabet media, the mainstream media, right? MSNBC, CNN, ABC, they all had this, The View. They all had this Jamoke on all the time. He was supposed to be the anti-Trump. He was going to take Trump on. They were talking about Avenatti for president, right? Brian Stelza, the little brown guy from WCRN, WCNN, has him on there saying, you know, I take you as a serious contender because of all your presence on cable news. They're so impressed with themselves, aren't they? So Michael Avenatti, he is convicted of stealing $300,000, a book advance, the money that was coming from the book advance from his then client, Stormy Daniels. Yeah, so now he's twice convicted felon. And he's actually very much referred to as a one-time rising star. Now, he's facing a maximum of 22 years in prison for this conviction on wire fraud and aggravated identity theft charges. So apparently he was forging the papers, telling Stormy they're not sending your advance. I don't know why. We'll get to the bottom of it. Meanwhile, he contacts the publisher, says send her money here to me. Here's the routing number, account number. He signs her name, forges it. Right, that's wire fraud. The jury started deliberating on Wednesday. He's scheduled to be sentenced now on the 24th of May. And after the verdict, Avenatti made a brief statement to reporters outside of the courthouse. This is in Lower Manhattan. And he says, I'm very disappointed in the jury's verdict. I'm looking forward to a full adjudication of all of the issues on appeal. That's something a lawyer would say. He can't really appeal on, malicious or inaccurate representation. He represented himself. So his conviction makes another black eye for the already tarnished attorney who rose to national fame during the Trump administration as a vocal foe of the president while he was representing Daniels. Avenatti was the darling of the left during this time, right? They just ate him up. They thought he was so good. One of the View members said, "You're like Jesus Christ. You're all over the place. You're everywhere." And he was. He got all kinds of airtime, right? And praises. Just like Governor Cuomo, right? Was going to be a great candidate for 2024 for president. What is the thing that the left can't ever really see the flaws with those on their own side? It seems to be a problem there, and that's what happens. This is what happens. Con men come along, right? Jamokes and shady people, but as long as they have the D and they say the right key words, the right woke words, and they're on the right side of the issue, they can do no wrong, and they'll defend them. And it's funny because people at Fox, including Tucker Carlson, was the first to really call this guy out and refer to him as a creepy porn lawyer, and had him on his show, and would call him creepy porn lawyer to his face. And there were others at Fox that were saying, this guy, no. And they watched him, and the rise and fall. But now Stormy, of course, she's speaking out, folks, right? Is hell hath no fury like a woman scammed. Stormy Daniels said that her former lawyer, Avenatti, deserves no mercy when he's sentenced on the 4th of May. So, hey, the battle, it got cantankerous at times, right? He stole the $300,000 book advance, and people were asking this question. Tucker Carlson asked them this question. You're walking around in $2,000-$3,000 suits, right? You're staying in the greatest hotels, eating in the greatest restaurants, flying around privately, and she is dancing at not the best clubs, right? At the, well, there are levels of gentleman clubs, right? And she's not dancing at the real high-end nice clubs. She's dancing wherever she can be dancing to be working to, keep a roof over her head and feed herself. And this guy is using hundreds of thousands of dollars of that book advance money. My question is, how much other money did he get from her? And then now you've got the other clients, right? That he's scammed from. And the partners, former lawyer partners, right? Because he broke off from them. And they're suing him because of the money that disappeared there and was misused as well. He was found guilty on wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. And that's on the Daniels case only. So Michael Avenatti, apparently, from what I'm reading, the minimum is 2 years. I think the judge doesn't even have the option of less than that. So he has to get at least 2 years, up to 22 years. Now it's up to the judge, but when you have the egregiousness of this and you put it as a second felony on top of the first shakedown blackmail conviction, I think he's going to do 5 to 10 or something like that. We'll see what the judge comes out, what he has to say. And there was always the question, was he ever being paid by Hillary Clinton? Right? Was Hillary Clinton paying Michael Avenatti? And that was something that was suspected, and it was asked about. From the American greatness comes that question: did either Clinton or the Democratic National Committee ever pay him? The question isn't exactly new. It was at least hinted as early as May of 2018. And on that day, Mark Penn, a former advisor to President Bill Clinton, published an op-ed in the Hill newspaper. The news was filled with the rantings of Avenatti, who gained his fame and notoriety representing former porn star Stormy Daniels, as we've been talking about. Daniels was claiming she was paid to cover up an affair with Donald Trump before he was elected president. And Penn's column raised several good questions. They have become even more relevant now that Avenatti has gone on trial for these crimes and stealing the money from Daniels, and he's back in the news. So Penn asked, quote, so exactly who is paying Michael Avenatti? And is he a lawyer, an opposition researcher, a journalist, or a campaign operative? He wants to make the discussion all about where Michael Cohen, President Trump's personal attorney, got his money. But to have clean hands, Avenatti needs to come forward with exactly who is financing his operation, who his sources were for detailed banking information, and whether he really is an attorney solely representing Stormy Daniels or just using her as a cover to wage political operation. So he was pushing to find the connection, the financial connection to the Clintons or the DNC. From the beginning, and this is bad, this has really been fishy, right? Daniel's previous lawyer advised her to stick to her agreement. In contrast, Avenatti okayed her violating with impunity her non-disclosure agreement on 60 Minutes, despite a binding arbitration judgment against her. She acknowledged on Twitter that she is not paying for her lawyer, so who is? And did he identify her against all multi-million-dollar penalties? Identify her against those. Finally, Penn ended with a bit of a haymaker on that, right? It took a long time and even a court battle to find out the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee paid for the Fusion GPS dossier, a fact that was disclosed only after the damage was done. As former British spy and the dossier's compiler, Christopher Steele, had already created a vast echo chamber as though the material he was peddling had been verified in some way, which of course it never was. Now Avenatti is being allowed to repeat this same process, mixing truths and half-truths and evading accountability. Avenatti has been given a free, unfettered media perch on TV to spread his stuff, right, without the networks forcing him to meet any disclosure requirements or producing any documents, saying that he is Daniel's attorney with someone else entirely paying for his operation or for this operation, is not true disclosure that allows the viewer to evaluate the source and potential of the conflicts here. He is now being given deference as though he is a journalist interested in protecting unverified sources while he makes headline grabbing pronouncements. Lawyers need to disclose the sources of their evidence. So the American Great article says, I have some personal experience with Kavanaugh, the man Tucker Carlson calls the creepy porn lawyer. In fall of 2018, the political left and the media tried to destroy Brett Kavanaugh, a high school friend of mine. Central to their effort was Michael John Avenatti. The creepy porn lawyer lived on television. He was interviewed 147 times in 1 week alone. Remember those days? You couldn't turn the TV on without seeing this jamoke on air. And he was fawned over by journalists who claimed to possess street smarts. He couldn't find their way out of their own bathrooms without help. Fueled by opposition research, extortion threats, and an attempted honey trap, politicians and the media climbed aboard the SS Avanti and directed lineal descent of the Titanic. Well, in the fall of 2018, a woman named Christine Blasey Ford, remember her? Accused Kavanaugh of sexually assaulting her back in 1982 when they were in high school. Ford claimed that I was in the room when the incident allegedly happened. Ford, who had every intention of going public, was a bad actor in both senses of the term. Sloppy doesn't begin to describe the corrupt left's reporting about the claims against Kavanaugh and me. Vanity Fair had to issue a correction admitting that a woman who'd said he went to college together, in fact, had attended a different school. The Washington Post withheld exonerating evidence presented by a witness they excluded from their explosive first story about Ford's allegations. And reporters used as a source people who had never so much as laid eyes on Kavanaugh or me. Now, again, this is from the American Greatness article. Then came Avenatti on September 24th of 2018. I got a nasty message on my phone from someone saying, you'd like to, express, bad word with people. I like bad word with people. 2, give me a call. I still don't know who the call was from, but I did give the number to the FBI. Words, and I learned as a kid watching The Exorcist, came back to me. Do not talk to the demon. The demon is a liar. Well, later the same day, Avenatti went on TV where he appeared apologetic. And he said my name 13 times within a span of 2 minutes. He was frustrated. Extortion wasn't working, as it would fail with Nike as well. And Avenatti had figured out that I was too street smart to hand him the shiv to plant into my back. I was not about to give it into the mob. Then the creepy porn lawyer produced a woman named Julie Swetnick. Remember that, right? Swetnick claimed that Brett and I had attended 10 parties in high school where girls were drugged and gang raped. She claimed that she herself was the victim of a gang rape. The story, too, is, the story was too good to check. In a move that would have gotten an intern fired, NBC's Kate Snow not only put Swetnick on air without any vetting, she also withheld information that would have damaged Avenatti. And during the first week in October, when Kavanaugh was still not been confirmed, Avenatti claimed he had a woman who would corroborate Swetnick's claim, but that was a lie. So from the NBC News report, this is what that reads. Reached by phone independently from Avenatti on October 3rd, the woman said she only skimmed the declaration the one that Avenatti had written for her. After reviewing the statement, she wrote in a text on the 4th to NBC, "It is incorrect that I saw Brett spike the punch. I didn't see anyone spike the punch. I was very clear with Michael Avenatti from day one." So NBC had that information, folks. And there was more. He goes on to write, "I would not ever allow anyone to be abusive in my presence, male or female." The woman told NBC, "I will definitely talk to you again and no longer Avenatti. I do not like that he twisted my words," she wrote. Rather than report this news at the time, which would have helped Judge Kavanaugh, NBC sat on the story for several weeks. And this is from Fox News, October 26th of 2018. NBC News is under fire for sitting on information that would have cast serious doubt on wild claims about now Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, just when the unsubstantiated allegations were rocking the judge's confirmation to the High Court. Controversial attorney Michael Avenatti and client Julie Swetnick claimed last month Kavanaugh took part in a high school gang rape, just as Kavanaugh was defending himself against a separate, uncorroborated claims. Avenatti connected NBC News with an anonymous woman he claimed could corroborate Swetnick's allegations, but instead accused the lawyer of twisting her words. Still, NBC went with Swetnick's story without disclosing the exculpatory reporting. And on Thursday, nearly 3 weeks after Kavanaugh's confirmation, NBC News published an article headlined, "New Questions Raised About Avenatti Claims Regarding Kavanaugh," that detailed inconsistencies with Swetnick's claims. In the article, NBC News admitted the unidentified woman repudiated the sworn statement Avenatti provided to the State Judiciary Committee on her behalf to corroborate Swetnick's claims. Kavanaugh's polarizing confirmation proceedings ended on October 6th when the Senate voted 50-48 to confirm him to the High Court. So this is a breakdown of the dirty tricks that were going on. Again, this is Mark Judge on the American Greatness. And this tells you, it really pulls the curtain back for those that might not understand to what level they were lying about the Kavanaugh confirmation. And all these women that they were pulling up and setting up have all since come forward to say, no, the things they were said, they were put up to say. They were lies. They were coordinating and using dirty tricks and payoffs to try to stop Kavanaugh sending to the Supreme Court. This is what politics are today. This article is just an example of what it is that we're looking at. All right, folks, 508-871-7000 if you want to join the conversation, 508-871-7000. Olympics are going on. What say you? Is anybody watching it? Hey, Cam, flying the board today. Are you watching the Olympics?
I'll watch some hockey.
Yeah. So you're not watching the whole thing, the opening ceremony, not glued to the when I was a kid, every 4 years, right? When the Olympics, we were all glued to everything. You watched the ceremonies, and whether you understood the sport, you just watched it because it was the Olympics. I don't think that's the case anymore.
No, not really.
No?
I'm kind of only into like team sports. Like in the summer, I like volleyball and a lot of that stuff. But some of the individual stuff, like swimming, for example, I don't know. It's never been my thing.
Well,
I get the importance of it and how cool it is
Yeah.
for somebody to win, but for me to watch,
Well, And of course, this time we have a lot of controversy because it's in China, right? We have Nancy Pelosi telling us, and did you actually open up those SoundLink things? Play the Nancy Pelosi talking to, this is what she's saying. So let me set this up. So China here, and we're open, look, China is a bad state, a bad country, right? They have social credit reports. They monitor everything, right? We just saw, I think it was a Danish reporter live in his newscast be pushed off and ushered away by a Chinese soldier or police officer. And Nancy Pelosi decides to tell our athletes, American athletes, to don't be American-like. We have to take a break, so we can do this after the fact, and we'll talk about Enes Kanter too. He's speaking out, and he asked for a meeting with Joe Biden. I'm Joe Mangiacotti from Boxtrot Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studio. Stick with us. We'll be back on the other side, and we'll continue.
We're going to lunch. This is Out with Joe. With Joe Mangiacotti.
Actually, honey, we're going to lunch.
Restaurants, food and drink, entertainment.
Put some bacon on a biscuit and let's go.
Now it's time to go out with Joe.
Welcome to this edition of Out with Joe, brought to you by Labonte's Auto School. With 5 locations, click Labonte'sAutoSchool.com to find one near you. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. And this week, Teddy's on the Hill opens in the former Red Hat space. More on this, we invite into the conversation Mark Hurwitz from NECN in Dig, Boston. Hey, Mark.
How you doing, Joe?
Welcome to Out with Joe. So what is going on over there in the old West End and Red Hat, which is, I know, a place you used to hang out a bit, and I did too.
Yeah, well, we had a bit of a scare last June because the Red Hat closed after being in business since 1907. And immediately after it closed, we heard that a new owner, Jake Nicholson, was planning to breathe new life into the space. So he recently opened in late January, actually, Teddy's on the Hill, which basically it pays tribute to the Red Hat, but also has a refreshing, the menu is a little different, upgraded, and the space was renovated a bit, but they do definitely pay tribute to the old Red Hat.
Well, that was such a mainstay and a landmark for, like you said, I didn't even realize it goes back to 1907.
It's old.
The inside, they didn't do a complete redo. They just freshened it up a little bit, or did they really wipe it clean?
They did a pretty good renovation on it, but they kept it the same style basically as the old Red Hat, and the menu has a lot of the same items that you would see in the Red Hat. So, like nachos, burgers, wings, and of course, beer, wine, and cocktails. But one thing of interest is they're also serving South Shore style bar pizza, which is the only place in downtown Boston where you can get South Shore style bar pizza.
I think for some of our listeners, you have to explain exactly what South Shore style bar pizza is.
Well, it's an individual pizza. It's 9 or 10 inches in diameter, and it's a mix of mozzarella and cheddar cheese that extends all the way to the crust, and you can get it with burnt or laced edges, so it caramelizes along the edge. It's just a little like Greek pizza, but not really. It's fairly greasy. It's got like almost a shortbread crust, and they're small enough so that you order one and you can eat the whole thing with whatever you're drinking, your beer or whatever. But they're really good, and mostly on the South Shore only.
Well, it's great pub food, right? That kind of pizza is awesome. All right, and they're going to go after, again, the college students, the medical profession, the politicians. Who do you think? Who are they targeting?
Yeah, I think all the above. And back in the day, the Red Hat was actually catering to all the accountants. There's a lot of accountants who work in that area, but it's going to cater to business people, medical people. People at the State House will be going down there because it's right there. And yeah, definitely people from Suffolk University and maybe Emerson, which isn't too far away. So I'm guessing it'll be a nice mix of people there.
Awesome. And Mark, tell people where they can see your stuff and see your articles.
So I write food and travel articles for both NECN online and also Dig Boston, both online and in print, and that's also food and travel. And also I do work on the Hidden Boston site, which is restaurant reviews. But these days, not much in the way of reviews, so it's kind of on hold right now.
Yeah, we have the same problem here with Out with Joe, not hitting a lot of restaurants. Mark, thanks for stopping by Out with Joe. I appreciate the coverage here.
Thanks so much, Joe.
And thank you for joining us. And for more on this posting and this complete article from Mark, click outwithjoe.com. We've suspended the Music Minute for the time being. Please support your local musicians. We do. Follow us social media platforms at Out with Joe. Out with Joe has been brought to you by Labonte's Auto School with 5 locations, one near you.
This is Sean Burke, president of the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts, asking you to visit us at lpdam.org. when you think you need a private investigator. Don't let your emotions negatively affect your future. Get your answers through a Massachusetts licensed private investigator. Get the facts without risking your credibility by unknowingly committing a criminal offense. You need a license to perform investigations in Massachusetts. What are some types of work that requires a license? Any type of surveillance, interviewing someone for a third party, background and asset checks are just a few examples. For more on this, visit us at lpdm.org and tune into AM 830 WCRN Monday mornings at 7:30 for case files from the LPDM or anytime at lpdmcasefiles.com.
This find of her home for Teddy's Friends brought to you by Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Today's candidate is Moto. He's a 4-year-old male terrier American pit bull mix, tan and white, and is very much house trained. Moto is an intelligent boy who knows what he likes. Some of his favorite things are strolling leash walks and quiet nights at home. This lovely boy is sweet and laid back and shy side with plenty of good manners and expects the same from both human and dog alike. For Moto, this means taking the time to get to know him. Moto is a gentleman who prefers to exchange pleasantries and go for a walk rather than to chest pump the high five type greeting that more outgoing individuals prefer. He is past that puppy stage and in the prime of his life. Moto is looking forward to living as the only dog in a quiet adult home. Moto's motto is relax and take it easy. If you share the same philosophy, Moto might like to meet you. For more on Moto, click Teddy Goodpup's Facebook page. Pictures and links to the Worcester Animal Rescue League. Find of Her Home is brought to you by Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or Facebook at Boxdrop Middlesex.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388, or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. When he drives a car off a lot, the value goes up. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the first hour of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, the Sunday edition from the Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. And I was saying, so that here we are going into China for the Olympics, and just, 2 days ago? Not yesterday, the day before, I think it was. Yeah, some Friday. Friday, you've got other members of the House joining Republicans, the Democrats, finally voting on moving the Olympics, right? And people like Marsha Blackburn and Tom Cotton, I mean, they've been out there for a long time saying, we can't do this. This isn't rewarding China here and for their atrocities, the concentration camps, where just horrible things are happening. The men are being imprisoned. The women are being forced to marry and be raped to have children. It's all about the genes, the race. They want to eliminate the Uyghurs. And this is horrible. And we have our own Celtics, right? NBA star Enes Kanter, who changed his name, right, to Freedom. Right? He's out there. He's tearing into Biden for not taking human rights seriously and claims that they have ignored his request to come to the White House. He says he's asked for a meeting with Joe to discuss human rights around the world, but he's received no reply. Right? Enes Kanter, Freedom, discussed the role of athletes in politics with the One Decision podcast on the eve of the Beijing Winter Olympics opening ceremony, and he's been outspoken critic of both Turkey and China. And he's barred from ever returning to his homeland of Turkey. Won't happen. He said U.S. leaders were too afraid of speaking out on the authoritarian regime. And he said that he was told that a White House meeting would be seen as a screw you to President Erdogan of Turkey. Let that sink in for a moment. So are you watching the Celtics? Excuse me. Are you watching the Olympics? Do you think that we should never have been in there? And what do you think of Pelosi warning them not to talk? I'll play that in a minute, but let me go to the phones. 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. Go to Ken in Bolton. Ken, good morning. What's happening?
Morning.
Are you
Good morning,
watching the
Joe.
Celtics? I keep saying Celtics. Are you watching the Olympics at all?
A little bit, but
Are
trying
you?
to-
Do you think we should not be there? That we should have pulled out and gone to a different, like, required the venue to change, or we won't go? I mean, this
Yes, well-
this diplomatic boycott. What is that? I don't even know what that is. It's a joke. It means nothing.
Well, no, what it is so-called officials weren't there for the opening ceremonies and won't be there for the closing ceremony.
So what?
Oh, exactly. It's superficial. Who cares? It doesn't amount to anything. It virtue signals. That's the way the left does things. It's like, well, yeah.
Let me do this. Play Marsha Blackburn. She's Republican. Where is she? Tennessee, I think. Right? Isn't she Tennessee? All right. Republican Marsha Blackburn spoke with Fox News about the whole situation. Let's hear her.
You have to look at the way we have Nancy Pelosi responding. This is disgusting. To tell our athletes, don't tell us what you're seeing, just keep your mouth shut. We are very concerned for the safety and security of these athletes. We're also very concerned about the human rights abuses that the Chinese Communist Party is carrying out, and you have articulated those well. We know that there is a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to the UN leadership, when it comes to the Biden administration, Pelosi's comments, the way they are treating these games, allowing a U.S. broadcast network to be there broadcasting these games. And the Chinese Communist Party has said they're conducting extreme censorship, that they have to approve everything that is going to go out about China, about the games. And to be kowtowing to this, for Pelosi to say what she did when she has supported BLM in the U.S., but then she is saying, oh, don't you dare speak out anything against the Chinese Communist Party. This is unseemly. It is uncalled for.
Yeah, and they have been telling the athletes to make sure you don't, use your phone. Get a burner phone. Even though they'll still track that and be able to watch it, but they would pull information out of your iPhones or your Droid phones. So get a burner phone. Be careful of what you say. And I'd say that most Americans going in there probably can have no clue as to the level of monitoring that would be taking place. Growing up in America, we know we're on cameras and traffic cameras, and the algorithms read our emails, but this is what goes on in China is a whole nother level with artificial intelligence behind a lot of it. Go ahead,
Joe. We need to come to grips with, first and foremost, at the minimum, this is a surveillance state. So you just mentioned the key words, artificial intelligence. That's the direction that they're looking to take, by which they become a power that manipulates not just their people. Their first experiment is with their own people. So they've been setting this up for 5+ years.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're looking to manipulate the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
So they're calling. So there's the surveillance state that you just described, and then briefly discussed the worst aspect of this paradigm, and that is the slave state, because that's what they're doing to Uyghurs.
Mm-hmm.
You described some of the things, but the really ugliest part is organ harvesting.
Yeah, and I've talked about that many times on this show, and a lot of people don't understand that you can if you need a heart or a liver or whatever you need with the right price, you can get it from a Uyghur who isn't doing it voluntarily, because of course they die if you transplant their heart.
Yeah, depending, obviously, a heart, but the different organs, they might survive.
But not America, the only country on the planet that has banned the ability to go to China for a transplant of any type is Israel. Only Israel has said, we know what goes on there, and we ban it. You cannot be an Israeli and go to China to get a transplant of anything, any medical procedure, because they know that they're taking it from a Uyghur.
Yeah, the connecting the dots with what we've gone through the last couple of years, let's think about this. There has to be someone else on the other side of this business transaction. We have medical authorities that are part of this. In other words, you start with a patient that needs an organ, and then somebody refers to ultimately them going to China. They know what's going on here.
Yeah.
And is it so surprising that we've seen the so-called health authorities be as evil as they have been the last couple of years when they've been part of this trade for many, many years? You really have to question yourself about,
because we find out that the NIH, right, and other offsprings of that have been in conjunction and in bed with China on medical research and experimentation. And we're doing it with a country that has active concentration camps. They have imprisoned these people. They torture these people. They conduct experiments on them. They rape the women to impregnate them to lessen their gene pool. They want to ruin that line, right? They want to. It's all. I mean, this is a version of the Aryan Nazi. That too was about race and purity, and this is the same thing that the Chinese are doing with the Uyghurs. I've been talking about these camps. I mean, I got people who tell me straight up that that they don't exist because their mind can't wrap around the fact that that's happening today. And for China to chew us out in Alaska, remember this at the beginning of the year, or right after the Biden administration took office.
About a year ago.
Was it about a year ago? Chewing us out. And about our black spot on with slavery in this country, which we went to war with ourselves to get rid of. This isn't 150 years ago. This isn't 200 years ago. What they're doing is active today. They're doing this to these people today. This is happening now, and to have only a very small. I mean, you've got like Enes Cantor Freedom. I mean, this guy has some cannolis. I got to tell you, he is absolutely doing the right thing. And when asked about it, when they asked him, he said, "Well, what if this kind of leads to you being let go? They already took the Celtics out. You can't find the Celtics in China, right? They removed it from all play and TV there." And he says, "What if that results?" And he says, "Well, then that's what happens. That's what happens. Here's a guy who is already worth millions, but NBA career will be worth tens of millions, if not 100 million, right? And that will be forfeited. He has no problem if this course of events prevents that wealth from coming his way, because what he believes in is speaking out and drawing attention to this is more important than any of that money that he'll come." So to me, I look at that Enes Cantor Freedom and someone like LeBron James, and LeBron James can't hold this guy's walking stick. I know that's not the expression, guys, but you know what I mean.
Well, one's been paid off in tens of millions of dollars, LeBron, and the other, his family has been directly impacted by tyranny within his own country in Turkey, so he can relate to what's going on in China. He has the courage to speak out about it.
And he has members of his family have been imprisoned in Turkey for him speaking out. Not only can he not ever go back to Turkey because he would be immediately arrested and God knows what would happen to him, but his family, parts of his family have been arrested, and the rest of them are living under fear. So he has personal loss here.
The amazing thing, Joe, is what has transpired over the past 30 years on issues like this, that the left used to stand up for and point out.
Yeah, it's
And
a
instead,
bizarre
now,
world, Ken.
yeah, see, now they've gotten into a web of power where they're actually envious of the Chinese because their idea is power. You know, we have it. Government is God. So, yeah, we'd like to do some of that too. So that's what Nancy's doing. Nancy's just trying to cover up. Please don't spill the beans, U.S. Olympians. You know, don't provoke them because they're our friends.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it. Actually,
It's ugly.
Mike Wade's early. He's already in studio. Good morning, Mike. I did get this, but we've got to play it. We can play it again later, but we've got Nancy Pelosi. Let's play so people understand what she said, because we heard what Marsha Blackburn said in response to this. But just so everybody, in case you missed it, this is what Nancy Pelosi says. Now, this is a woman, right, who was supporting all of the protests and the speaking out, along with the damage and tearing down statues and setting courthouses on buildings. She said nothing against it. Matter of fact, she would even say, hey, it's everybody's right to protest and speak up. But this is a woman who has one heck of a portfolio with her husband, Paul, tied to China, and is making money because of our relationship with China. You need to understand that. So this is Nancy Pelosi's response to American athletes going to China.
I would say to our athletes, you're there to compete. Do not risk incurring the anger of the Chinese government because they are ruthless. I know there is a temptation on the part of some to speak out while they are there. I respect that, but I also worry about what the Chinese government might do to their reputations, to their families.
What the Chinese government might do. And I maintain if Donald Trump was still president, he would be saying something more along the lines of, if you touch one hair on the head of an American athlete, I will rain hell down upon you like you've never seen before. Mike, I think that's what Donald Trump would be saying.
Right. I have no problem. Trump was very hard on China. You know, you talk about Pelosi's ties to China and how she doesn't want to upset her money train coming in. But you also have Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and how many other Democratic Congress or senators or even Republicans that have ties to China, and they don't want to upset the apple cart. The other thing is she was warning Olympians not to go anywhere or speak out against the Chinese, government. The other thing I can say is get some cojones and do it. All right. They're not going to shoot you. They're not going to put you in jail. Okay. They might detain you for a little bit. But in other words, get some cojones and start speaking out. Maybe, you worked for, say, 4 years or all your life to get the Olympics. Maybe once you get that medal, start speaking out because you've already done what you went to the Olympics for. And it's pretty tough to say, to a person who spent his whole life training to be in the Olympics and finally actually make the Olympics and not to go. But I mean, you have the right, you get on the stand, okay, and you have the right to speak out in that. And Joe, you brought up I'm not sure where the reporter was, where the Chinese police rushed him off.
I think he was Dutch,
Yes.
In a live report, all of a sudden you see that. And over in China, you're not sure, is it a police officer or military? It doesn't matter. They sweep them away because they did not like what he was saying.
The other thing is maybe it's about time for students that think this socialist utopia is great. Start watching some of their stuff where that reporter was there. You think about your free speech where you can protest and say, hey, capitalism is no good. Well, why don't you look at what's going on? And you would not be able to speak that way if you were in communist China. Okay, you couldn't speak that way. You'd be thrown in jail in that, and you probably would never see daylight again if you came up against the Chinese government.
Yeah. And the thing is, this is why we had Marsha Blackburn, Tom Cotton. We had these Republican senators a while ago saying we need to, vote and urge them to take it away from China and put it in a place more in line with our values and beliefs. And the Democrats finally caught on, but they voted yes on the opening day of the Olympics.
Right.
All right. So that's how much it took them to come into place. I know, Ken, you're still there. Did you want to do your Hall of Shame and Fame?
Absolutely. And it's a follow-up to yesterday. So my Hall of Shame is Jeff Zucker.
Uh-huh.
My Hall of Fame is Joe Rogan. And I don't know how many people recognize the fact that the two crossed paths in their careers. People remember Fear Factor, the show?
Yep, Fear Factor.
That was with Zucker at NBC.
Yep. Yeah,
another program.
Yeah, he the thing is, right, he was at NBC. He did the Katie Couric show, lasted a year. He also did the 14 seasons, 14 years of Apprentice with Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was the one who after, he ruined NBC, Donald Trump was the one who got him the job at CNN. And then Zucker decides, or now some say it's pronounced Zucker, by the way, right? It's depending, but Zucker anyway.
Yeah.
He went all in on Trump, right? This was his former partner in The Apprentice. They literally made hundreds of millions of dollars off that show. I read somewhere between $250 to $300 million is what Trump made. So Zucker made that, NBC made that, and he went all after. But CNN became this one-note network, anti-Trump. And they pushed the Russian collusion hoax, and they protected Hillary, and they did this one thing, and people started to realize. And then even after Trump's gone, they still everything is Trump, and that's why they're down 70 to 90%, depending on the demographics you're looking at of their viewerships. They can't break 1 million viewers. They're lucky to get 700,000 viewers, right? When you've got Joe Rogan with 11 million per podcast.
I guarantee probably Joe Rogan's viewers of his podcast is going to go a lot higher because people are going to wonder what's going on with Joe Rogan. I've never seen his podcast. I got to admit that. Okay. But I do like what he's doing. In fact, I got a whole bunch of stuff about Joe Rogan, but also about misinformation. Who the hell determines what misinformation is? In that, and that's what I'm saying.
Well, that's always the point.
Yeah.
And as Joe pointed out in his Instagram post or whatever, the things that they were saying just a short time ago were being called misinformation, and people were being deplatformed for. And now that's what is coming out of the CDC, and John Hopkins and other medical professionals are now being now saying it. Those ones that are approved. And I've said this all along, folks. It's these doctors that were coming out and talking about the mask use, and then ivermectin and the treatments. They have the same medical degree that the other doctors that were saying the opposite, but because they were the approved doctors of CNN and MSNBC and the Biden administration, we had to believe them. And not to believe them, you were anti everything, and you were a bad person. You were a murderer. Their words. You were a murderer. I was chatting with a friend of mine who's in China, but even though he's Chinese and was born in China, he's into international finance. So he's always worked around Europe. His last job was in Saudi Arabia. He went back to China at the end of last year, and you had to quarantine yourself, right? So he goes back to China, he goes into quarantine, and there you have to pay. You go into a hotel, and you can't leave the hotel. And I'm talking, you can't go down the hallway to the ice machine, Mike. I mean, you can't leave the room. They'll bring you food, and that's it. You can't go down to the pool. You can't go to the ice machine. You cannot leave the room. It is literally a nice prison cell while you're in quarantine. He got out of quarantine, but wait, he gets out of quarantine. He's asymptomatic. He gets out. And then he ends up testing positive for it, asymptomatic, no idea he had it. They arrest him. Chinese officials take him down to the police station, and they were going to throw him in jail, but they allowed him to quarantine himself for 3 months in a hotel. And now he's allowed to be to the family home while they figure out what to do with him. And their words, they consider him a bomb because he was positive. That's a bomb.
Did he tell you how he was tested, Joe?
No.
You know how they do the test? It's an anal swab.
In China, I thought they stuck this big thing
absolutely.
way up into your brain, right through your nose.
No,
the
anal
test.
swab.
All right. So that's a pleasant experience. Yeah. But so now he's got a year that he's allowed to be home, but he has no idea what they're going to do. If they decide to prosecute him, he could end up in prison. If they don't act within a year, then it gets dismissed. But this is what he's living under in China right now. Right. And they consider it you a bomb. You're a human bomb if you are positive and you go outside.
Gee, if only our future could be like this, Joe and Mike.
Don't worry, it's headed there. But look at Ken, thanks for the fame and shame, but I'm going to have to hold you there. We're running up against the clock, and that will wrap up the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Shop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. We'll take a quick break, come back on the other side with Mike Wade, and we begin conservatively speaking here on AM 830 WCRN.